They didn't live longer because they had perfect genes. They lived longer because they did something different. And it's probably not what you think. Have you ever met someone who just seems to glow with life, even into their 90s? Someone who's still sharp, still moving, still smiling while others their age struggle to get through the day? It makes you wonder, why do some people live to 100 and others don't? And no, it's not all about luck. The truth is, a long, healthy life isn't just something that happens to you. It's something you build bit by bit through tiny choices, daily habits, and maybe even a mindset shift or two. And the best part? It's never too late to start. So in this video, we're going to talk about exactly that. What are the real reasons some people live well into their 90s and 100s, while others don't make it nearly as far? And more importantly, what can you do today to stack the odds in your favor? Let's start with something most people overlook completely: attitude. It might sound fluffy, but your mindset, how you view aging, how you handle challenges, and whether or not you believe the best years are behind you, has a direct impact on how long and how well you live. Studies from Yale and other respected universities have shown that people who have a positive view of aging live on average 7.5 years longer than those who see aging as nothing but decline. Imagine that just by believing there's still joy, purpose, and energy ahead, you could stretch your life nearly a decade longer. And you know what? The people who live past 100, they don't walk around fearing birthdays. They don't say things like, "I'm too old for that," or "It's all downhill from here." Instead, they stay curious. They laugh easily. They believe there's still more to learn, to give, to enjoy. It's not about pretending life is perfect. It's about choosing not to give up on yourself just because the calendar keeps turning. Now, let's talk about something a little more physical: movement. No, not training for marathons or lifting weights the size of your grandchildren. Just moving your body regularly, gently, consistently. There's a small town in Sardinia, Italy, one of the famous blue zones, where people live well past 90 and 100 with almost shocking regularity. And guess what? They don't have gyms. They don't do CrossFit, but they move all day long. They walk to the market, they garden, they sweep their steps, they climb hills, and they do it all without making a big production out of it. You don't need a fancy fitness program. You just need to avoid sitting for too long. Take short walks after meals. Stand up and stretch every hour. Carry your groceries instead of pushing the cart all the way to your car. If you can dance a little while you're making dinner, do that too. Every little bit of motion signals to your body, "I'm still using you. Don't quit on me yet." And here's something else that might surprise you. The people who live the longest, they don't aim for perfection. They're not out here trying to be the healthiest, smartest, most impressive person in the room. What they are is consistent. That brings us to the third key: routine. Our bodies and minds love rhythm. The people who live the longest usually have a reliable daily routine. They wake up at the same time. They eat meals around the same time. They go to bed early, not because they're boring, but because they know sleep is sacred. And their routines are filled with things that support their health without them having to constantly make decisions. It sounds simple, and it is, but don't confuse simple with unimportant. When you have steady habits, especially habits that protect your energy, your joints, your digestion, your peace of mind, you create a structure that helps you thrive instead of just survive. Even something as small as drinking a glass of water first thing in the morning, getting 10 minutes of sunlight before 9 a.m., or setting a reminder to stretch your legs at 3 p.m. can rewire your body systems in the right direction. And here's something else to think about. Routines aren't just about tasks. They're about connections. Long-living people tend to have regular, dependable interactions. Maybe it's lunch with a friend every Tuesday, or coffee on the porch with a neighbor, or a weekly walk with your sister. These tiny rhythms of social connection are more powerful than most folks realize. Loneliness, especially after 60, has been linked to higher blood pressure, poor sleep, inflammation, even increased risk of dementia. That's not something you fix with just pills or supplements. It's something you heal with people. Now, I know not everyone has a large family or a big circle of friends, but connection doesn't have to be complicated. A smile and a short chat with the cashier, waving to the same dog walker every morning, even calling someone just to say, "Hey, I was thinking about you." Those moments matter. Your brain needs them. Your heart needs them. And over time, they add up in ways you can't always measure on a chart, but you sure can feel in your spirit. So far, We've touched on mindset, movement, and routine, not flashy, not trendy, but these are the very things that keep people thriving long after others have started to fade. And the beautiful thing is, no matter your age or background, you can start practicing all three today. Because the secret to living longer isn't about doing one big thing. It's about doing small, life-giving things over and over until they start doing something magical back. If mindset, movement, and routine form the backbone of longevity, then what fuels it, what keeps it all humming, is what you put into your body. And I'm not just talking about eating your greens. I'm talking about having a relationship with food that actually supports your life, not just your waistline or your blood sugar. People who live the longest tend to eat in a way that's simple, balanced, and deeply connected to their environment. Take those folks in Okinawa, Japan, another blue zone community. Their plates aren't stacked with protein shakes or packaged health snacks. They eat real food, sweet potatoes, leafy greens, seaweed, tofu, small portions of fish, and they often stop eating before they feel completely full. There's actually a phrase they live by, Hara Hachi, which means eat until you're 80% full. Think about that. Instead of piling food on until you're stuffed and uncomfortable, they stop when they feel just satisfied enough. That small act of restraint, repeated every day, helps their body stay light, flexible, and far less inflamed. You don't have to live on sushi and miso soup to benefit from this mindset. Just slow down a little at meals. Pay attention to when your body says, hey, that's enough. Eat foods that are as close to their natural state as possible. Less packaged, more colorful, more grown from the ground and built in a factory. And let's not forget the joy of food. People who live long lives don't eat out of guilt or stress. They take pleasure in their meals. They eat together. They talk and laugh between bites. That joy, it helps with digestion, lowers stress, and connects them to the people around them. Now that we've talked about feeding the body, we need to talk about feeding something just as important, purpose. This might be one of the biggest overlooked keys to longevity. And I don't say that lightly. If you ask people over 100 what keeps them going, they rarely say, oh, it's because I never ate sugar. No, they say things like, I have a garden to tend. I play cards with my friends every week. I have grandkids to spoil. Or even just, I like waking up to see what the day brings. Having a reason to get out of bed each morning. That's what keeps your spirit alive. It doesn't have to be something grand. It could be a hobby, a project, a pet, volunteering, mentoring someone younger, or learning something new. Anything that gives you a sense of contribution or joy, something that tells your mind, I still matter. Purpose keeps your brain engaged, your emotions balanced, and your energy flowing. And here's the beautiful part. Purpose can shift as life changes. Maybe you used to find purpose in raising your kids or in your career. Now, maybe it's teaching someone else what you've learned. Maybe it's finally picking up that instrument you always wanted to learn. Or maybe it's just being a calming, wise presence in a world that desperately needs it. Purpose isn't about being busy. It's about being meaningful. And that feeling is what keeps people going when everything else around them changes. Which leads me to something that's a little harder to talk about, but just as essential, resilience. Life isn't always gentle. Especially as we age, we experience more loss, more health scares, more change. The people who live to 100, they don't avoid pain. They move through it. They've had heartache. They've lost people they loved. They've faced illness and disappointment. But they don't let those things define them. They keep going. They adapt. That's resilience. Not pretending everything's fine, but having the ability to say, this hurts, but I'm still here. This is hard, but I'm not done. Some people think resilience is something you're born with, but really it's something you build. And it's built in the small moments. Like when you choose to go for a walk even though your knees ache, or when you call someone instead of sitting in silence, or when you get out of bed on a tough morning and make the bed anyway, just to feel a little sense of order. Each of those moments adds a brick to your foundation, and over time, that foundation becomes strong enough to carry you through the storms. And here's the thing, resilience isn't about doing it alone. The strongest, longest living people have support. They lean on others. They ask for help when they need it. They know that independence doesn't mean isolation. There's a saying I love, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. That's never been more true than in our later years. So whether it's a friend, a neighbor, a walking group, a church community, or an online buddy you check in with every week, connection builds strength. It reminds you that you're not carrying your burdens alone. When you put all these pieces together, what you feed your body, what you feed your soul, and how you move through the ups and downs, it starts to paint a picture, a real-life roadmap to not just a longer life, but better one. Because longevity doesn't mean much if it's not filled with clarity, movement, laughter, connection, purpose, and a little grit. And let's be honest, if you've made it to this point in life, you've already got grit. You've already walked through more than most people know. The question is, what do you want to do with the time ahead? Because that time, it's not just bonus years. It's your years. And you can shape them in ways that surprise even you. So here's the part no one really likes to talk about, but it matters more than most people realize. A long life isn't just about what you add to your routine. It's also about what you learn to let go of. Because the truth is, there are people who do everything right. They eat well, they walk every day, they take their vitamins, but they still carry around something that silently weighs them down. Stress. It's sneaky. It hides behind clenched jaws and polite smiles. It shows up in tight shoulders, short tempers, restless sleep. And over time, it chips away at the body in ways that are both quiet and powerful. People who live into their 90s and 100s, they've learned the art of letting things go. Not everything, but the stuff that doesn't serve them anymore. Grudges, regrets, worrying about what others think, the constant pressure to be productive, the need to be right, the guilt over things they can't change. They don't waste energy stewing over the past or fearing the future. Instead, they focus on the one place where life is actually happening, right now. They learn to breathe, to pause, to not take everything so seriously. And that's not laziness, that's wisdom. They might still get upset, still get anxious now and then, but they don't live in that space. They let the moment come, and then they let move on. You probably noticed this in the oldest people you know. They smile easily. They crack jokes. They shrug things off. It's not because life's been easy for them, but because they've made peace with what they can't control. And that brings me to something deeply powerful. Something most doctors can't prescribe, but might be just as important as any medication. Forgiveness. Forgiveness doesn't mean pretending the pain didn't happen. It means you've made a decision to stop letting that pain run the show. It's freeing yourself from the weight of someone else's wrong choice. It's telling your own nervous system, you're safe now. You don't have to carry this anymore. Long-living people, they've forgiven others. And maybe even more importantly, they've forgiven themselves for mistakes, for bad choices, for not knowing better at the time. If you want to unburden your heart, that's where you start. And your heart, quite literally, will thank you. Forgiveness has been shown to lower blood pressure, reduce anxiety, improve immune function, and yes, even help people live longer. Now, here's another thing the long livers get right: curiosity. That twinkle in the eye, that I wonder what happens if I try this energy. That's not just fun, it's life extending. You see, as we age, it's easy to fall into routines that feel safe, but also shrink the world around us. Same shows, same meals, same stories, same chair, same route to store. There's comfort in that, yes, but there's also danger in too much sameness. Your brain thrives on newness, novelty. It doesn't have to be big, just something that makes you tilt your head and say, learn a new card game. Try a recipe from a different culture. Watch a documentary on something you've never heard of. Ask someone younger how their phone works. Take a new walking path. Sketch something. Write a poem. Sing in the shower. Not because you're good at it, but because it makes you feel something. That sense of wonder, it rewires your brain in the best possible way. And that mental flexibility, that openness to life, it spills over into everything else. People who stay curious tend to adapt better, handle stress better, bounce back from illness better. It's not about keeping your body young. It's about keeping your spirit young. And while we're on the topic of spirit, let's talk about something sacred to so many people who live long, full lives: faith. Now, that doesn't have to mean religion in a traditional sense. For some, it's a connection to God. For others, it's spirituality, nature, meditation, or simply a deep sense that life has meaning beyond the physical world. Whatever form it takes, having some sort of anchor, a belief that there's more to life than just survival, can be a powerful tool in longevity. It brings comfort in hard times. It creates community. It gives people a framework for gratitude, patience, acceptance, and even death. And while faith won't stop the aging process, it can absolutely change the way you walk through it. with more peace, more joy, and far less fear. So no, the people who live to 100 aren't superheroes. They're not better than anyone else. They've just figured out what to hold on to and what to release. They hold on to movement, routine, purpose, and laughter. They hold on to good food, good people, and good stories. And they release the rest, the stress, the noise, the expectations, the grudges, the shame. They know time is a gift, and they treat it that way. And if you're watching this and thinking, well, I've already made a lot of mistakes, let me gently remind you, so have they, every last one of them. But they didn't let those mistakes be the end of their story. Neither should you. You know, when we think about people who live to 100, it's easy to picture someone who had all the advantages, great genes, perfect health, no setbacks. But when you really talk to them, when you hear their stories, you realize something different. They didn't live long because life was easy. They lived long because they learned how to keep living, even when it wasn't. And one thing they all seem to have in common, they never stopped growing. It's easy, especially as we get older, to believe the growth part of life is behind us, the big achievements, the new adventures, the new skills. But here's the truth. Growth doesn't stop unless you decide it does. The oldest, most vibrant people out there are still learning, still stretching their minds, still changing, adapting, evolving. Whether it's learning how to use a smartphone, taking up a new hobby, or simply being willing to see the world from a different point of view, that's growth. And it keeps the mind young, the heart open, and the soul alive. You don't have to go back to school or start a business at 85, though some people do. But maybe you take a painting class, or you start journaling, or you ask your grandchild to teach you how to edit a photo. It doesn't matter what you're learning. What matters is that you're still curious enough to want to learn. And that brings us to something I believe might be the most beautiful part of all this, giving back. You've lived a life. You've collected stories, lessons, wisdom, the kind of real-world experience that can't be found in books or on the internet. And you may not even realize it, but you hold answers that someone else is quietly searching for. People who live the longest often find ways to share what they know. They mentor, they teach, they tell stories, they write letters, they pass down recipes, values, memories, laughter. This kind of giving, it doesn't just help others, it helps you. It reminds you that you still have value, that your life still matters, that you're still part of something bigger than yourself. You don't have to volunteer full-time or start a foundation. Even something as simple as sharing your favorite piece of advice with someone younger, or calling up a friend who's been feeling low, or telling your family stories they've never heard before, that's legacy work. And legacy work is a beautiful reason to keep waking up each day, because in the end, living to 100 isn't about just adding more years. It's about filling those years with purpose, connection, love, and maybe even a little laughter. Now, let's take a breath and step back. We've talked about so many parts of this journey: mindset, movement, food, routine, forgiveness, curiosity, resilience, faith, growth, and giving back. It might feel like a lot, and maybe you're wondering, where do I even start? Start small. Don't try to overhaul your life overnight. Just pick one thing, one tiny shift that feels doable to you today. Maybe you stretch for 5 minutes in the morning. Maybe you call someone you've been thinking about. Maybe you go outside and let the sunlight hit your face for a moment. Maybe you write down one thing you're grateful for before bed. That's it. That's how it starts. That's how you build a life that lasts. Because it's the small things, repeated often, that shape our years. Not the big, dramatic moments, but the daily, quiet ones. And if you stack enough of those together, they turn into something powerful, something lasting. And if you're watching this and thinking, it's too late for me, please hear me. It is not too late. It's never too late to choose better, to feel better, to live better. There are people who found their greatest peace after 70, their biggest joy after 80, their most meaningful relationships in their 90s. And yes, even new beginnings at 100. Your story isn't over, not by a long shot. So take care of your body like it's your home, because it is. Feed it with good things. Move it gently. Rest it deeply. Take care of your mind like it's your garden, because it is. Water it with new ideas. Pull out the weeds of fear and doubt. Let it bloom. And take care of your heart like it's your compass, because it is. Let it guide you toward connection, joy, forgiveness, and love, because you still have time. You still have purpose. You still have life. And whether you live to 80, 90, or 110, make it yours. filled with moments that matter, days that feel good, and a spirit that knows you're not done yet. If any of this resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Share your stories or experiences down in the comments. I read every one. You might inspire someone else without even realizing it. And if you found this helpful, go ahead and hit that like button. It really helps the channel reach more folks like you. Subscribe if you haven't already, because we got plenty more uplifting, practical content to help you live your best life at any age. Thanks for spending this time with me. Take care of yourself, stay curious, and remember, here's to living your best life. Whether you're 60, 70, or a bright-eyed 99-year-old just getting started.